This weekend, Ryan gets his fill of Disney tweens, Andy rocks the baby, and we end it with all guns blazing. I'm Ryan.
I'm Andy.
And this is Weekend Rental, episode 185. All right, welcome back, everybody. Exciting week. Less jet-lagged week. I don't think we're any less tired as parents, though. You and I are both going through the whole back to school bullshit. Like, gotta go to school, gotta get everything organized, gotta do the first day thing. It's not a great time to be alive.
I'm kind of excited. I'm counting down because this summer I've been working from home with all 4 kids at home every day. I'm ready. I will drop them off at the bus at like 5 a.m. that day.
Did I tell you my son opted? They changed the bus route. Not that it wasn't close to us, but it like literally stops at a corner now. And they changed it because he got so mad at me because he got so many tardies last year. Because the window to drop him off was like 7:50 to 8:05. And he had to be in the seat by 8:05. My daughter, the doors didn't open to her school, which is only a few blocks away, until 8:05. So I would drop him off at 8, thinking, 5 minutes is enough for a lazy ass kid to get to his seat. Then proceed to drive my daughter like 6 blocks over to her school to meet the 8:05 deadline, which didn't always work. And he got like, I don't know, let's say 40 tardies throughout the year, which in elementary, who cares? But he was so butthurt by that. He's opted now to ride the bus. So which I'm not complaining about because I can see him get on the bus right outside my window, and then it's one less person to deal with in the morning. So pretty sweet.
Yeah. Is it any earlier or like a big difference or no?
Yeah, it's like 7:45 they stop at our place. So he's gonna get, but they're freaks. They get it because my wife gets up for work at she starts work at 5. So both kids are up by 6 a.m. every morning anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
Wow.
So I'm not complaining. One less thing, right?
Yeah.
And pretty soon, in a couple more years, I'll be like ducking in the car, and like my daughter will be dashing out before anyone sees her stupid father dropping her off. So
yeah, or they're just going to be driving themselves pretty soon.
Oh God, I don't want to think about that. It's terrifying. Yeah, it'll be this is your first year with everyone out of the house, right? So
yep, full time. Yep.
Full sanity.
4 of them are full time. So
nice. And are you dropping off, or is it bus?
It'll be bus. They're pretty. We're pretty close to the school, especially on the route. We're like one of the first ones on, or the first one's off, last one's on type deal. So
nice. That's super convenient.
I'm pretty spoiled for them. Yeah.
Yeah. The joys of parenting and getting older, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, the impromptu, but so our listeners, like if you are familiar, we've been doing this podcast for many, many years now with Geekade hosting us. Geekade is a podcast network. They used to be multimedia, video, articles, and more. I would say, shoot me if I'm wrong, but the flagship podcast, Stone Age Gamer, one of the hosts over there recently announced in the latest episode that they're not having the greatest time. As things happen as you get older and life comes your way, we would very much appreciate if you would go over and listen to Stone Age Gamer, give them a follow, make them part of your regular podcast routine, and show a little love towards Dan, one of the co-hosts over there. That would mean a lot for us and them, I'm sure. So just a quick side note. Yeah. And with that, Jesus, we have the biggest slew of topics we've had. Like, you didn't even contribute that much, but mine is insane, which you said you had a lot of these too. I think we dive into the most important one. For the second time in a Nintendo Direct, we've hit it like perfectly the week we're recording. So we got this week, yesterday it would have been Indie Direct and a Partner Direct. Indie World and Partner Direct. So like a full hour Direct, 2 halves. What did you think of that thing?
I mean, you have to know your expectations, right? When it's like
temper them quite a bit.
There's no Nintendo published stuff there, right? Like you're not getting the meat and potato stuff. Outside of that, this late in the game, we're still getting so many re-releases and remasters and stuff that I am deathly afraid that the next Switch 2 is just going to be start that engine back up, and we got the PlayStation 5 and the other modern stuff re-releasing.
Well, that would run dry quickly with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series because there'd be like 10 games to port in the first year.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's hope that that's an apocalypse if we're framing it that way.
Yep. That said, probably the one that I'm most interested in. I haven't gotten to get it yet, but the Castlevania collection of
the DS one.
Yes.
That was huge.
I've played one of them, and the rest of them are so prohibitively expensive. Like you're getting like $200 worth of value out of that thing.
Well, and it seems like so much of the DS is just like thrown away because it's like, well, I'll use 2 screens. We can't possibly figure out how to make that one. Like, yeah, you can. Pause menu. You know what I mean? Like, as long as it didn't overly rely on touch controls. Yeah, I thought that was pretty great. I got really, really fucking excited about that Tetris Forever by Digital Eclipse, because you know what that is. Like it's Tetris, but like that is a museum with 90 plus minutes of like documentary footage added. Like this is a history museum in the digital form for a game that literally changed the landscape of gaming. And yeah, I'm probably not going to play that a bunch, but I'm going to play that a bunch to get the bonus material. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. And so out of that, the Tetris Battle Guide N is part of that.
Yes. Yep.
And that is like, I have a physical Famicom cartridge of that. I have very few, but that was one that I've sought out to find because I love that game. So it's really cool to get that on an English cart, maybe.
Yeah, it's a very cool one. And to like get some of the iterations from Japan that we didn't get here. I mean, we got most of them, but there were definitely, that's a perfect example of ones that we didn't get to play. So, yeah, that one, as soon as I was like, I'll probably buy this. And I saw Digital Eclipse. It's like day one, like this is going into my collection. So
it's kind of funny because like how they pitch that in that, like to me, like all of that extra stuff is why I would really want that, Right.
So I focus on like the different versions of the game. Like, who cares?
And then at the end, they're like, plus 90 minutes of documentaries. It's like, well, you're bearing the lead on this, this game.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. They should have led with like Digital Eclipse and like like a montage of like some of the new like interview bites. And yeah, I didn't give much of a shit. I mean, I was like, well, I'll probably grab it if it's on sale. And then when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this needs to be in my collection. I can't under or overstate how important that Atari 50 collection that they did is. And I know it's getting like a weird part 2 or deluxe edition, which I'm not super happy about how that's being released. I'll buy it for more content, but I wish that it just done like a second, like I don't know why it's a digital deluxe almost version. It's weird. The other big thing out of this for me, and people seem to have glommed onto it, is that Capcom Fighters Collection 2. And how I cannot stress how important it is that Power Stone and Power Stone 2 are released from their Dreamcast and PSP death. Like those games, we should still be talking about Power Stone. Power Stone should have been iterated on and evolved, and so many people have no idea like how great those games are. So the fact that like I hate fighting games. Straight up, they're not my thing. Smash Brothers, great. But Power Stone like kind of fits that weird line, right? Of open world chaos mixed with some strategy. So to have those back in what I assume will be a $30 collection, because the last Fighters collection was incredible to have them on modern consoles.
Yeah. And well, talk about a value like that right there, that collection. If you're going to go buy those physical, that's like $500 or more, you know? So
a lot of
that
alpha versions of games that I don't care about, but I know a lot of people do. So
yeah. And even that Marvel fighting collection is pretty cool too. You know?
Yep.
I like playing those games because they're kind of like, as long as you're not playing with somebody who really plays a lot of fighting games, they're a lot of fun because it's just like anybody, as long as you're button mashing, anybody could win, you know, for the most part.
Yeah. I was like, I was kind of snoozing on that whole announcement until they got to like Power Stone. I was like, oh my God. Like, because I mean, anybody who owned a Dreamcast or liked fighting games back then, like knows how great those were. And then like the whole online version, like, which I think the PSP might have had that, but like, let's be honest, how many people were playing online on the PSP? Mm-hmm. Like nobody. So to be able to jump into a Power Stone 2 4-player match online, like that's the dream right there, right?
And for them to just throw it in on it, you know, it's not a strict Capcom fighting game like you imagine. So
no, exactly.
For them to just bolt it on is really cool of them to do, because they could have just made a whole other collection of mostly those two games, you know, and probably still sold those for 30.
I wish they would take that property seriously and just realize that, I mean, when you look at like the landscape of like what Smash did, like there's a definite market. They could make, there's a route in which an evolution of Power Stone 2 could be still commercially viable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a AAA game by any means, but even a 3/4 effort, come on. I don't know. There's some magic there.
Yeah, I wonder what would stop them. I guess there's not a lot of like that type of fighting game or brawler. You know.
Yeah, I feel like the Power Stone series 3D. landed. It landed when fighting games were falling out of favor, and it landed as a heavy hitter to a select group of people on a console that was essentially already dead. You know what I mean? So they probably, I mean, they never saw the receipts for it, but anyone who's played it, either one of them loves it. So
I think they probably listened to our podcast about that other Super Nintendo game, that Sunsoft one we were talking about, and we're like, this just reminds me as that, you know, Power Stone is so great.
And they're like, we're going to add them to the collection because we heard them.
Yep.
I'd love to think we had that much influence. Yeah. Was there anything else that like stood out to you? I guess there were some other notable stuff, but like, I guess I have a question is like, why are we getting an XD version of Shovel Knight again? Like, didn't we already get like a Shovel Knight treasure trove? Like, isn't that the complete? Like, why do they keep doing this instead of just making more?
I would love to see like the branch and release tree of Shovel Knight products, because it's got to be. I don't even know how you could follow it.
Yeah, you can't comprehend it. Shovel Knight this, Shovel Knight that, this release, that release. No. It'd be different if it was like from generation to generation, but it's like every 9 months there's something new and it's repackaged, and I don't even understand what you're buying anymore.
Yeah, there's a new knight that you have to fight. Of course. Yeah.
Well, it said 20 playable characters. Like, fucking 20? Are you kidding me?
They didn't stop.
No. Yeah. How about you? What else jumped out?
I don't know. You know, some of the indie stuff looks cool.
Yeah.
But it's tough to know, like, some of that stuff looked very indie, and then some of it looked pretty polished and like kind of bigger too. So it's weird that both of them were there. What's an indie game at some point? But
yeah, the one with the wolf, like that opening one where they had like the interview with people, like that looked good. But also in watching their demo, I was losing what was happening in the action. So I can't imagine playing that.
I think that might be more of an art game, or just like an art piece than more of a game.
The fluidity was impressive, whatever it's going to be. Yeah. There was nothing where I was like, other than the Power Stone thing, where I was just like, hot damn, but at the same time, I can't be disappointed because like they just killed it so much on their last one, and their release schedule for the rest of this year is so stacked. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am for the next Zelda here in a month or 4 weeks, not even 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh, I forgot it's that soon. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, then we get Mario Party, and we get something else I'm forgetting. Besides an HD Donkey Kong Country Returns. There's 4 games I'm waiting for, but Zelda's the one that I'm just like hyper focused on. I'm like, yes, I liked what they did with the reimagining of Link's Awakening, but I just want like more traditional scrolling, which this has, and yeah, I'm very pumped.
Did you watch the museum one? I don't think we've talked about this.
No, I did not.
Okay, it's basically like a 15-minute video of Miyamoto wandering around the new museum that they have there, that's opening pretty soon. And it's interesting because a lot of it is like not just Nintendo or like video game stuff. Like that's kind of what I'd actually like to go see, is like stuff that's not like 100 years before video games of stuff.
Yeah, get into the trading cards, get into like the toys, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they showed a baby stroller even. Can you imagine having a Nintendo baby stroller?
God, that would be great. I would have more kids for something like that. Have that.
Yep. But yeah, there's a giant room with a bunch of giant controllers that you can play the actual games. Which that's pretty
cool. Yeah. Yeah. I wish they would do like a North American version. You know what I mean? Like, for as popular as Nintendo is, like, can we celebrate its history in like your second biggest market?
Yeah.
I mean, even Europe, like, why aren't there 3 of them? Maybe there will be. So
yeah, could be. I did see somebody say that, be aware there is no parking at this museum. You have to bike or you have to walk or
take a train.
Which is, it blows my mind that there's places that are like that could even be like that living in America where you drive everywhere.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I'm less blown away by that after coming back from that 2 weeks in Norway, because, like, you forget that, like, when you live in a country that was built before car was the main transportation, like, how cities just don't evolve around parking spaces, which makes logical sense. But, yeah, when we come from an area of the Midwest where, holy, that building's been there for almost 200 years, like, that's the dinosaur era. You know what I mean? Yep. Like, it's wild. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I would love to see that at some point. I doubt I'll ever get to Japan. That's not on my priority list.
I'd like to go.
It'd be cool. Yeah. Well, from what I've heard, you should tattoo yourself head to toe, wear mid-rift shirts and shorts, and then be very obnoxious, and maybe film everything even without permission, and they'll love you.
Yeah. Can I bring my guns?
All of them.
Okay.
Why would you not? Yeah. Well, I'm just going to pivot into a random rant because this pissed me off. So we went to Walmart, as you do if you want to, save on the cost of living in today's climate. And we were doing our grocery shopping, buying the essentials, but you have to take a detour through the not trivia. I'm getting ahead of myself. The clearance aisle. And they had a bunch of board games. So it was like half price. My wife finds this like the World of Disney trivia board game, right? And they still want like $17 for it. It's down from like 39 or whatever. Like, it was something stupid. And I was like, fine. Like, if you're that excited about it, we'll get it. We play this thing, and like the box art is all Disney animation, right? Like, you pull the board out, it's got this big elaborate board, and like everything is like stills of like Pixar and Disney and like all animation, everything. And then you get into the trivia, and there's like a kids trivia, which is about like, I'd say 1/5 of the total deck. So you can separate it out if you're playing with a younger audience. Then there's the regular trivia, which is like massive. And we start playing this fucking thing, and I shit you not, I about rage quit by the fifth time I got to a fucking Lizzie McGuire or Jonas Brothers or High School Musical fucking question. And it wasn't even like about the goddamn show. It was like, what composer produced this song from the third like Lizzie McGuire fucking season? It's like, this isn't Disney. Like, I don't see Lizzie fucking McGuire on this board at all. I don't have a Lizzie McGuire character. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Wow. Like, you're celebrating the world of Disney, and like 30% of it is this type of shit, which I get. I don't mean to downplay a generation who that's what they grew up on Disney, but they are not marketing this Disney trivia game as that in any way. It's all focused on like us, like, you know, millennials and the Disney, old Disney animation, like the, you know, the classics, The Lion King, this Beauty and the Beast, all of that before that. And like, we just got so pissed off playing this game, my wife and I. And then the level of detail, like it was never like anything logical, like fun facts about the movie you're watching. It was always like some deep cut on like, what was the actor that voiced like this like 8th tier fucking character in these movies, or who composed that, or what person like assisted produced this. Like you'd have to be,
oh my gosh,
you'd have to be a psychopath reading nothing but like Disney Wikia and like subreddits to play this thing. It was the most frustrating thing.
It almost seems like they put it in like AI to just be like, search IMDb to create trivia questions or something, you know?
Yeah, and it could be. So what we ended up doing after the first game, because we hated it, was we switched over to the kids cards, which work like this, where there's a still from a movie, which there's still some shit I don't agree with, like Jake and the Pirates and some of that stuff. But like you hold up a card, and there's 5 questions at the back, and like depending on the color you land on, like you get one of those 5 questions. But it's like, who am I? Like, who's my best friend? Like, what show am I from? It's like, yes. Why did I get like 10 of these cards and 500 of the other? Like, this is not this is the game I wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's surprising. Like I could imagine them, you know, like saying who played Davy Crockett, or, you know, like those really old ones. At least those are like Disney history, you know?
Well, yeah, there was like some 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea bullshit, which.
Okay, well, that's some old shit too. But at least that stuff you are like, oh, that's Disney history, where it's like,
right,
the Disney Channel shit, who cares? Like,
yes, the most flushable, disposable 2000s garbage, right?
Yeah.
I was so annoyed. Like, we hit no less than 5 Lizzie McGuire questions, and at least 3, and this is the first game because we switched after this, at least 3 High School Musical questions, and I would say at least another 3 Jonas Brothers, and probably 3 more Sweet Life. Like, just,
oh my gosh.
Oh, and Hey Jesse. Like, hey, who gives a fuck? How about that? Nobody. Like, it was awful. Like, the first game, because we got 0 right, we played for about 40 minutes. And then we're like, fuck this. Like, let's try the kids thing. And then we played 3 more games because we're having fun. But yeah, I don't get it. Like, I mean, I don't want to downplay it. Like, it's all Disney history and important, but like, in the scale of what you're marketing and the scale of what the audience probably thinks you're picking up, that is like, if you were going to make it that, I should have seen all of that shit on the cover. I should have seen all that stuff on the back. Yep. Some of the figures I was playing with should have been something other than like, I don't know, Mickey, like Nemo, like all the traditional shit from 20 years ago. It was bullshit.
I can't wait to see Hilary Duff Lizzie McGuire show up in Dreamlight Valley.
Oh my god!
My wife's gonna be big,
like those big buck teethers after she got those veneers put on. Just like transform into a rabbit.
Can we get Did they talk about what's his name? The Transformers kid. He used to be Disney guy, right?
Shia LaBeouf? No, yeah. Oh no, that's not true. There wasn't even Steven's question.
Okay, yes. That's what it was. Yeah, that's a show. Yeah.
Yes. I will get behind that one, but that does not belong in that game either. So Yeah, I was very furious. Like, I'm kind of like, we'll have fun with the side questions, but the fact that the main game just like kind of missed the mark so much on what they're advertising is bullshit.
Yeah, that's pretty disappointing. There's so much Disney shit that you could,
yes,
to ask questions about.
There's a good 50 years of what most people would consider the classic era, and even kids today still know, because as millennials, we've been showing them that. We haven't been showing them The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody or Hey Jesse. Maybe they found it sadly on their own, like my kids, but
we have one it's called Color Brain. It's mostly for kids that you have like a whole palette of colors on cards. And then somebody will say, give you Disney characters. They'll be like, Iago or whatever, and say, but then you have to lay down a color, what you think he is mostly, like would be red.
Sure.
And that one's kind of fun because it's just like, well, yeah, it's all usually characters that you are aware of, but they're halfway in. A lot of them are in your mind. You're like, well, I can't necessarily picture it in my head. So it's like that part of the gameplay is fun where you're just like, I think it's that. And then somebody else is like, no, how could you be that stupid? But
that's great. That one sounds more entertaining than this by far. So, I'm gonna say Disney World of Disney trivia hard pass for most people. Well, let's talk about one of yours. Godzilla X Kong.
Yeah. So this is kind of a just a bonus because we also have a movie podcast that is on the Geekade Patreon. Which we are also recording tonight. Will be up early next month about the 1998 Godzilla. So make sure you check that out. And,
the best, definitively Godzilla movie ever.
I mean, it's up for discussion. We haven't had that podcast yet, but it's neither the best or the worst. It's like Schrodinger's Godzilla. Well,
it's by far the worst.
Have you seen this new Godzilla verse?
Okay, maybe not. I've not seen this one, so it's worse than that.
I can't say it's worse than that, but I think it's my least favorite since that one, which is it's disappointing because the last one was just Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. I thought was great. It was good. They just basically beat the shit out of each other, and then something else happens, and then they team up.
Sure.
But like this one, it's like they have to do all this dumb shit to like, oh, we got to get them together again, and then we have to have some reason for them to fight again. And then, of course, there's more convoluted shit that we have to have them team up again. And it does it in a way that makes you, the viewer, just seem so stupid. They have to like stop everything and just have people that have no character at all. There's no characters in this movie. All they are there for is just to explain to the viewer what's going on the screen, as if you don't have eyeballs yourself. But
or a brain.
Yeah. It's bad. I really dislike that, and I hope they're just kind of like, okay, we're done with King Kong and Godzilla, but probably not, I suppose.
Isn't it part of the larger like monster universe? Isn't there going to be like more crossover films, and Mothra's coming back with his own special?
Yeah, he was in this movie, so they brought him as if everybody's supposed to cheer for Mothra. Ooh,
right. Like I understand like continuing a legacy because like Godzilla has like just over the decades continued to persevere, but like King Kong is never like. King Kong has always been iterative, right? Like there's always been like, well, somebody's going to redo King Kong and they'll make like some bullshit sequel, but nobody's ever really, it's never been like franchised or like this living legacy. So it's weird to me that they feel the need to put him in as like this partner with Godzilla, where it's like he was never really in that universe or more than a footnote. You know what I mean?
Right. And as it goes on, they have to make it more. They have to make these monsters act more human, as if they have like real logic, right, human logic to them, and like it's such a huge disconnect to Godzilla -1, where it's like the characters are great. The whole movie is about the characters, and Godzilla is just a monster. Like there's nothing to him other than destruction,
And that was filmed on like 1/10 of the budget, and it's a better film.
Right.
Even with bad translation, it's a better film. Yeah.
It doesn't have as good a one-liners though as Godzilla 98.
No. I've been thumbing over the HD Blu-ray bundle online pre-order for Godzilla -1. It's like $50, and I'm like, like I want to own that physically, but I don't know if I need like the 4-film version. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have yet to see this one. I thought I was going to watch it on the flight for our trip, and then I clicked on it and realized it was the previous one. It was like Godzilla versus Kong or whatever. Not
that. You should have watched that one. It's way better than this one.
Yeah, well, I had to fill my boredom with Dune and Dune 2, which that's 6 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. So, yeah. Well, since we're on the topic of movies, let's touch on a couple trailers. Sonic 3 got a trailer. Have you seen this thing?
Yeah. I'm not sure what to think about it.
It's excited.
A lot of shadow. It's a lot of shadow, that's for sure.
It's a lot of Robotnik.
Yeah.
Which, for a guy who's coming out of retirement for, the third animated entry in a video game movie, it was pretty entertaining. I think it's gonna be more good. Like I stand by that all the Sonic movies so far are better than the Mario movie by a large margin. I think they're more watchable, more full fleet featured, maybe not as well animated, but they're also in a real world environment. So there's that. I think this is gonna be good. I'm pretty goddamn excited about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Keanu, I think, might be a pretty good choice for that. But you think he's not, I guess, the John Wick stuff kind of puts him in a different category again. But yeah.
Is he the voice of Shadow?
Yeah.
Oh God, I didn't even know that.
Yep. He's the voice of Shadow. Yep.
Yeah. I think what's interesting.
I'm just wondering if it's going to be 3, like, because it was assumed that, Jim Carrey wasn't coming back.
Right.
So I feel like it's going to be like 3/4 of the movie is going to be, Sonic and Shadow and all this stuff. And then at the very end, they're going to be like, hey, we paid Jim Carrey a ton of money to come in for a day or two.
Well, my theory is that this will follow the chronology of the games, and then that this will lead to Sonic and Knuckles, and they're going to have to team up. And then the spinoff will be that Robotnik, after setting Knuckles or Shadow straight, will then like have somehow created, well, he does create, but like the Metal Sonic character, and then it's going to be Sonic and Knuckles plus Shadow plus like maybe an Amy even, and just like that'll be the final movie, That's what I'm thinking. I have no idea. Because I can't imagine they're going to stop, because they've just been like printing money with these things.
Yep. I've not finished the show, the Knuckles show.
I haven't either.
The kids kind of dropped off of that one even. It was kind of like, I don't know if Knuckles by himself works that well.
No, he's comedic relief, but yeah, he's not the star. That's for sure. Yeah. It's exciting though. It's out this year, so presumably we'd get another Mario movie next year. So it wouldn't go head to head with another Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they've set dates for that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's next. Was it next year, they said? I'm not sure.
I don't even know. Like they haven't really revealed details even. So
No.
this will be a big one though. I mean, this is like the perfect holiday flick, right? I mean, everyone's gonna be watching this. I can't imagine. Well, Disney, I don't think has anything lined up for that time frame this year. So when a kids movie over the holidays, it'll be Sonic 3.
Yeah, and overall, I think the Sonic stuff is better. Even if you don't pay attention to just the Sonic stuff, the human characters are pretty decent in it too, you know?
Well, and the humor there is enough for everybody. And, you know, at least in the first, you know, couple films, there's been enough deep cuts for fans, but it really doesn't even have to be about that. Like it's just a genuinely entertaining film for the whole family, where I feel like Mario, it didn't quite happen.
Yeah.
It was like deep referential cuts in the background and like kids jokes. So
yeah, it's a tough mix, right? Because it's one person's not going to get the other side of that.
Yeah. Well, and since we're talking about holiday animation this year, have you seen that Studio Ghibli Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim trailer?
No, I have not heard about this.
So yeah, it comes out in December in theaters. Anime or animation, obviously. If you're familiar with Studio Ghibli, you know what to expect. Looks fucking incredible. They're definitely doing like the full like this is a PG-13 plus film with the animation, but it looks super fluid. It's picking up kind of in you know that second act of, you know, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, or the books, even, I guess, if you're gonna look at it that way, of like what built like the Rohirrim Riders and like that, like why that was such a powerhouse. So it's all in that era in the initial wars there. It looks great. It looked like genuinely, like I'm super excited after, you know, the dumpster fire that was Peter Jackson's The Hobbit trilogy. Like to get like I'm not as against whatever the Amazon Prime series is. I thought that was fine, but like to get something that looks to be of this quality in that universe and to go watch it in movie theaters, I'm very excited about.
Yeah, that's cool. I had no idea this existed. I definitely need to see that. Is it written, or is the story by Ghibli, or are they just animating it?
I would have to look. I don't know if I paid that much of attention. It just kind of all caught me by surprise because I caught like the trailer and like they open up with like some of those scenes from the trilogy of them like riding up to that area, and then it transitions over to anime. I was like, no fucking way. Like this is great. So yeah, I would watch. There's like a 2-minute trailer. I'm sure it'll be good. The pedigree, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
Yeah, and then we don't have to worry about any like Peter Jackson CGI bloat or, you know, parts 1 through 25 for no reason. So, not to take away from his original trilogy, I know that The Hobbit was somewhat out of his hands, but
yeah,
but yet in his hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an accomplishment for a guy that is not known for editing and he makes really long stuff, to then say we're gonna also make it 3 movies, and him saying that's too much.
Right, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, this one looks really cool. Kind of came out of nowhere for me. So between the second part of the Prime series and this thing dropping, it's a very good year for presumably Tolkien fans, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah, I still haven't
heard much about
seen the Prime stuff.
No, yeah, it gets dogged on a lot. I thought the first season was fine. I thought it mostly fell into that universe pretty well. I mean, there's some high points and low points when you do something like that, lower budget and, you know, more episodes, but
yeah,
it's all right. I have to compare it all against the Hobbit trilogy, and compared to that, fantastic. So, yeah. So what's been Lethal Company, huh?
Oh yeah, finally had a new update, and that still playing it with my nieces and nephews quite a bit. They had an update a while ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
That added a truck, which was basically a joke because it's incredibly hard to drive. It handles terribly. You basically need 2 people to control the damn thing, and it's really not that useful because most of the planets have hills and shit like that. So it was a funny joke for a while, and then after that it was like, well, you didn't add it, can't use it.
Right.
And then one of the monsters was just terrible. They basically camped at your ship, and it was a mechanic that every time you came to the same planet, they would add more weeds, and you had to buy weed killer to get rid of these weeds. But if you didn't get rid of the weeds, this other monster would come. Well, it was just a pain in the ass to get this weed killer and kill the weeds, right? He actually took it out of the game. He's like, yeah, everybody hates this thing, so I'm going to take it out of the game, which is, it's pretty admirable actually for one guy who created something to have been like, yeah, you're right, I'm taking this out of the game. Yeah. So that was the best update, taking that, just removing something. But there's also a new interior, which is like a mine shaft. So you take an elevator down, which is kind of fun with a bunch of people to go down in an elevator. And then there's a new monster that is, it's called the Man-Eater. It's a little crying thing that you have to go, if you hear it crying, you have to go find him, pick him up and rock him. Otherwise he basically explodes into a big monster and will hunt you down and kill you.
Okay.
So it's
Stitch.
interesting. Yeah, it's a little bit like Stitch, yes. So it's interesting. Usually like you hear a monster, you're like, oh shit, we have to get out of here, right? But now there's a monster where it's like, oh shit, we have to go find that thing now. Otherwise we're all dead. So
yeah,
it's interesting. To have something that you're panicked to go find, to explore further in without you in a panic, because you obviously have a higher chance of getting lost then. And that's where a lot of the fun in that game is just like chaos.
Do you know like which monsters you're up against, or is it all just like random?
There's spawn rates on different planets of different things, but yeah, it could be basically anything.
Okay.
I had one where I was in this mine shaft and I found the baby. So I was just rocking the baby, carrying it everywhere. And then a spider came from the other end and I ran the other way. And then they have this monster who's basically invisible to you until he's right next to you. He's called the Barber. He's a huge giant scissors. He's invisible until you're right in proximity of him. And then once you see him, you have basically a split second to run away. Well, I was running in a direction and I basically ran right into him and he cut me in half while I had the baby. I felt like a terrible parent, but yeah, it's also
like
funny,
a nightmare
like
scenario. So then you die and he spawns into his evil form and like kills your whole crew.
Yeah, basically. Yep.
Nice.
And it's funny because like it's the patch notes, of like what he added and stuff. And like 2 days after this thing, he added another thing. He's like, apparently a lot of you are just grabbing the baby and throwing it down the elevator shaft. So it's gone forever. So he patched it so it like climbs out of the elevator shaft and attacks you.
Nice. Oh, that's great.
But yeah, it's
I still need to check that one out.
It's the right amount of chaos. That's fun.
It's awesome. Yeah, I should get around to trying some of that stuff. It looks good.
Yeah, it's just chaos because most of the time you basically die to a lot of bullshit. Sometimes, there's not real skill. Sometimes it's just like, well, you just got the unlucky draw on this one. You're dead.
That's fun though.
Yeah. Especially
in multiplayer. If it was solo, that's one thing.
Right.
Well, and speaking of complete chaos, GameStop Retro. They're about, 15 years too late to that trend?
Yeah.
And nobody seems to know what it is. They're opening GameStop retro locations. But they haven't said if this is like actual rebrandings of current locations or if it's just sections within existing stores. But I've gone on the like search within my radius and I can't find one of these fuckers anywhere near us. So I'm
really
confused.
I thought Brainerd was maybe.
I searched 100 miles, but that'd be outside of mine. So,
yeah, I just pictured that it's just a program that they're doing and they're, a separate little area for these things.
Yeah, that's how I'm picturing is like GameStop of like the early 2000s where there was just like a shelf that had some of the shit. You know what I mean? Because there's not enough. They'll not be able to get enough retro inventory nationwide to do anything significant. They don't have the buying power for one. They'd be stupid to take the risk on the volatility and the piracy within that. You know what I mean? Like fake carts. Like,
oh my gosh,
they're too stupid to know what, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ, you could go on like AliExpress, order 20 copies of Little Samson, probably make bank on those idiots. So
yeah, you have to assume that they would have to go through a program for that. Like I think that was, they did this a few years ago, and they got burned by all these fake carts.
Yes.
So I wonder if there's like a training that they have to do now, or at least like match up photos or something, but they're still not going to do that. Most of the employees there are not going to do it.
Yeah, you're not going to open up boards in your store. And no. Then I saw part of that was like that, whatever monochromatic or whatever, like new Game Boy thing that's coming out, which there's going to be like an exclusive version through GameStop that plays Game Boy Color, and these like exclusive proprietary cartridges. So I was like, well, why are you guys doubling down on something like that when there's already like that market, like, let's be honest, is already going towards the analog pocket, right? Nobody wants this other thing. I can't imagine. Maybe I'm wrong. So to like launch this thing and like take pre-orders on it and to start to sell retro, I don't know. Like if they'd have maybe tried this 10 years ago, maybe they could have like started buying their way back in, but nobody who has any common fucking sense is going to like go to them for anything retro.
No.
You're not going to sell to them.
No, not for the peanuts that they're going to pay you. I mean, you might catch the few families that like, oh, I found this in the whatever, but those people they're not around anymore. There's not many.
No. Especially after the pandemic, everybody and their mom thinks like their Wii's worth like $8 million. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'd walk into a GameStop and like tell them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah. That's they recently started selling PSA graded sports cards and trading cards and stuff like that too. Like they're taking those in. What idiot is trading that in? Like the people that buy that shit know exactly. That's why they're buying it, because they know what it's worth. They're not buying it because they're enjoying the card and be like, oh, I don't enjoy this one anymore. I'm done with it. They bought it because they know the investment and what it costs. Like that exchange rate doesn't work.
Well, it's the meth head younger brother of, somebody who had a card collection is what. I just, in a company that's already like in a predicament, nobody needs a GameStop anymore for physical games when Amazon will get it there on day and date for launch. So many people now are just digitally pre-ordering. You go into those stores, it's just like Funko Pops, t-shirts, and Meta Quests. Like, the fuck do you exist for? Like, you're my Amazon homepage on like when I search video games or pop culture. You know what I mean? Like, there's no point. And, it's telling too, because you go into their competitors and you look at like a Best Buy and a Walmart and a Target and like, well, Walmart's a little different for now. I suspect it will change greatly in 5 years, but you look at like Best Buy and Target, like, and what consists of their video game aisle anymore? Like, is it like, do they even carry them? Not really.
No. And they followed the GameStop thing by adding all the other shit too.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And even that has gotten drastically smaller in those chains. So
yeah,
like, why have a dedicated staff footprint and store for something that people could just buy online? And they are,
Yeah. It's especially like how they're just following trends, like they don't have a vision of what they're actually doing. Like they got into crypto stuff or the NFT stuff like 6 months late than they should have. And yeah, it's
and there are so few local based mom and pop retro game stores anymore. And the ones that have survived know exactly what they're doing, and they treat their customers. Well, there's some exceptions, a chain in our area especially, but they know exactly what they're doing and treat their local customers well, and they've survived on that. GameStop's never going to crack that. You know what I mean? They'll never dig their way. And so it's like, if you're even going to try and make it work, it's like you're going to have to find markets where it's just like obliterated. There's no other option. Or it's so large that you'll dupe enough idiots, but not the Midwest.
No. And you're right. It has to be almost like 50% stolen goods for them to like get trade-ins, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I would think like even retro game stores, like it's 30% like I need my next hit of whatever. And like I found this box in my aunt's garage. Like, that's happening. It's got to be just as bad as a pawn shop. There's no way. Because collectors aren't trading that stuff. Anyone who has a brain isn't trading that stuff.
No. There's easier ways to get at least most of your value out of it.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of getting...
they have to do something with, they don't have a magazine anymore, so felt like they were...
Yeah. Those fuckers.
I don't know.
And speaking of getting most of your value out of something, Croc's getting a remaster. Argonaut's back. Did you see the preview for this? Remaster's a little loose. It looked like a budget era PlayStation 2 title is what this remaster looked like. And I don't want to shit on it all because I think Croc gets overlooked all too often, because maybe for people who don't know, but like Argonaut worked with Nintendo in the Super FX era, helped them develop some of that. In fact, Croc was pitched as a early development title to Nintendo. It was going to be like a 3D Yoshi based game, which weirdly they declined to take, stopped doing business with them, and then put out Super Mario 64 a year later. Wonder where they got that idea.
Yeah. Oh, we should make a Yoshi 3D game for once. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, this Mario 64 thing has nothing to do with what Argonaut showed us. And whether or not that is true or not, I would say in the pantheon of like true 3D adventures, I would say there was 3 games that really like lumped themselves in there. And that becomes, in my mind, Mario 64, launched in 96 in Japan, 97 here. I hate to say it, Bubsy 3D, abysmal, completely got it wrong. But then somewhere in between those two things, you got Croc. And Croc did a lot of things right, and it came out on the PlayStation, and it was almost the counterpart in my mind to like what Mario 64 was. It just lost it in the control scheme because it just did not have an analog stick. It was before the DualShock on the PlayStation, but it was very much a realized 3D platformer in the way that Mario 64 was, maybe just more compartmentalized and less open world. So to me, it's pretty goddamn interesting to see this game get brought back and have Argonaut come back and dive into its catalog. Because there was a Croc 2, and that was pretty well received as well.
But I feel like, Spyro came out and then kind of ate its lunch a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, but like how many years later was that? Like 5, right? I mean, it's like, well, maybe not 5, but like 3. But yeah, I agree. Like it completely got overshadowed very quickly. So I'm kind of glad to see it getting like a little dust off and some of its due, because I do think there is something there. It felt like a very juvenile take on Mario 64 maybe, but the other thing I liked was they were talking about how like Argonaut was going to be doing remasters and re-releases on modern and retro based consoles, which to me means we're getting a Giga art for Evercade with Croc and Croc 2 is kind of what I'm thinking. Because I mean, we're already getting Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, and the first one now too, along with the, we've already gotten the Tomb Raider trilogy, so
yeah,
makes sense. But yeah, the trailer for this thing looks this sells for more than $20. I don't know, man.
Well, I suppose everything is just flat colors, right? So it kind of like there's no real upgrading the look of that,
right?
So much, but
it's just lifeless.
Yeah.
But to be able to play it with 2 analog sticks, I think would pretty much fix every issue I had with those games.
Yep. So. Yeah, that was the main thing, was the camera or whatever, right? The control. Yeah. Speaking of Spyro, I learned this today. The guy from Reno 911, who's the gray head, he has gray hair, mustache.
Mm-hmm.
He's the voice of Spyro.
Really?
Yeah. And what else? It was the Taco Bell dog. He was the Taco Bell dog. And he was Rocco from Rocco's Modern
voices. Life. Those are all incredibly different voices.
Yeah. And then to be like, play a cop on Reno 911, like, how do you even do that?
Yeah. I had no idea. That's wild.
Yeah.
None of those things sound anything like themselves. So like, that's kind of mind blowing. Huh. Good for him, I guess. That kind of ruins Reno 911 for me, but
it's Rocco, the Taco Bell dog. Yeah. Although I think all those people probably do a lot of voice work on that show. I'm not sure. I mean, the main guy, he obviously does some of that, I think. But
yeah, it's such a great show.
Yeah.
I just remember that like movie, like how much like weird like sex scenes, like weird like awkward sexual innuendo there was, and, like the stings of the prostitute. Like it's so gross. It's so great that they went that far with it though. So good. Well, time for staff picks.
Yeah. You want to go first?
I'll let you go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't care.
I can go. Mine's pretty quick. Mine's a board game surprise. Card game, sort of. It's called Silver and Gold. It's a bunch of cards that have kind of Tetris pieces or a big kind of grid of stuff.
Okay.
And you pick a few, and then there's multiple rounds where you flip over these other cards that they mostly are just Tetris pieces. And then you take those pieces and with a dry erase marker, cross out those blocks on your cards, right? And the point is to, you get points by filling out the cards that you have in front of you based on these Tetris pieces. So it's kind of like Tetris. They're not falling blocks, but you're just putting them into
dealing them. Yeah.
And there's different points mechanics, but it's really simple, really easy to play. It's like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. So it's really easy one to just be like, I'm not feeling, like a big board game. Just pull it out and play that. And, just with dry erase, you can just wipe off the cards when you're done, and it's all ready for the next one, right? So, yeah, I recommend it. So,
where'd you find that at?
I think I bought it off of Amazon, but it's a $10 or $15 card game, I would say. It's not too much.
Okay. That sounds really cool. So what's the objective? You have to just fill the space, or?
Yeah, if you fill out a card, you get a certain number of points, whatever's on the points are on the card. Then there's like X's in the card or in the shape that if you fill out one of the X's, then you also get to put one X anywhere you would like. So that kind of helps, like if you get trapped and you only have like a certain spot. There's no piece that would fit. Yeah. Some cards have coins on them, and the earlier you get a certain number of coins, the more points you get. So yeah, I haven't quite figured out like what's the best strategy yet. It is just kind of like a lot of just different points that I think like you just organically get. So at the end of the game, everybody's pretty close to the same amount. It's pretty hard to screw up and, not get a lot of points.
Sure. Sounds cool. I like the idea of it. Like, so is it like you take turns and flip cards, or like,
I mean,
you're trying to work through your hand?
Yeah. So like one person flips over a card, everybody uses that shape on their card. So,
okay. Gotcha.
I mean, we took turns every round of who flipped the cards, but it really doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. And there's a certain, I think it's like 8 cards that have different shapes on them that you can put into your cards. And you only flip over 7 of them each round. So you can't really like memorize and like count the cards to be like,
sure,
well, I know how many, what shapes are going to show up. So there's always might be one. Yeah. There's always one that's not going to get flipped. So you don't know, which is a good game design, I guess.
Yeah. That sounds pretty good. I like casual stuff like that.
Yeah.
Easy to learn the rule set.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll have to watch for that one.
Yeah.
Well,
so what do you got?
My staff pick, I was just going to touch on Umbrella Academy season 4. I didn't even know it was coming out. I kind of forgot about that show. It dropped like the beginning of August, I think maybe when I was on vacation, but we just discovered it was on excuse me, I get the hiccups. Netflix. Because I so randomly or rarely these days go into Netflix that I don't even notice like what's happening on it. But it's 6 episodes, I guess. We're 4 episodes in. I've read that it really falls apart at the end. But considering like what a mess I thought season 3 was, I'm okay with it. Like the first 2 episodes especially like really came out like guns blazing, like very good. So if you like the Umbrella Academy and you were a little like what the fuck after last season, the first few episodes I can say are worth a watch so far. Whether or not they continue to hold that quality throughout the end probably doesn't matter to me because I'm already content with what I've gotten. So
yeah, this is the last season or no?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure. So
I can't believe they're on 4 already. Like I just feel like I just watched the first season like not long ago, and then the second season came out. I'm like, I'll get to it, and now we're on 4.
Yeah. And season 3 was so weird, like the timing wise, pandemic, whole Elliot Page like spin of that character, and like
how did they handle that? Like
seamlessly. I mean, to be honest, but it was just like they had to make that adjustment into a season that was already like pretty chaotic. So I think like it was just like a lot of I don't know. I really did not like season 3. I mean, I liked the characters and I always have, but like the context they put them in there was bad. And this one kind of lets them shine again as individual characters. Plus they brought, what's his name? I forget. He was Parks and Recreation guy. He was also in that Last of Us episode that was so good.
Nick Offerman. Yeah.
Yeah. He plays a pretty prominent role in this where he's paired up and his wife is mouthy lady from Will and Grace.
Okay.
Not the like dark haired lady. I forget her name too, but like together, those two play off each other so well. And they play just basically like cult leading psychopaths. And it's just pretty awesome to be. And you got, not Patton Oswalt, but who's the other guy from Mr. Show? I'm bad at this. Anyway, he's in there. Yeah. David Cross. Yep. He plays a role in it too. So, but yeah, we're 4 episodes in. I'm nearing the home stretch, and all 4 of those episodes have been highly entertaining.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, dust it off if you forgot about it like I did. So. What's funny is like I meant to go on there because I was like, I know somebody uploaded a comedy special and I was gonna watch it and I can't remember who it is, and it was like trending on Netflix. It's like, oh, Umbrella Academy, and then here what I was searching for was Adam Sandler's new special, but I'll get to that at some point. So,
yeah,
one of these days.
It's always so much.
There's too much. It's too convenient. You just binge it all, right?
Yeah. If you're having a good time with us at Weekend Rental, I think you might enjoy all the great geeky stuff found on the Geekade Podcast Network. They've got podcasts about games, music, movies, and more. Plus, if you order off their secret menu, also known as the Geekade Patreon, you just might find an exclusive movie podcast hosted by Ryan and myself. Check it out over at geekade.com. And hey, if you'd like to turn Weekend Rental into a true multimedia experience, our YouTube and Twitch channels might just be for you.
All right, so Weekend Rental, for those uninitiated, we play a game for a given system, or in this case, all modern consoles and platforms. And we play that game, we give our opinions as to whether we'd personally buy, rent, or burn that game. And by burn, we mean light it on fire. So we are checking out this time Konami game. I think in the story, did they call it Signy, or is it? I was calling it Signy, but then I swear in the cutscene it was Signy,
really?
But
okay,
maybe not. I don't know. It's like all Signy, All Guns Blazing is the name of the title. It's from Konami. It's on literally every platform. We played it on PC because Epic gave it away in the month that it dropped. Yeah. This is a bullet hell shooter. Think Radiant Silvergun or Ikaruga probably are the closest comparisons, but they tried to put in like CGI cutscenes and story into a bullet hell for some reason. And Konami still makes games. I was very unaware that they did that.
Yeah, or at least published it. I don't even know how they got published this thing. Yeah. That story was kind of nonsense. Like it. I mean, any shooter, you're not coming there for the story. There's barely any in anything, you know. I can't name a shooter that had like a coherent story that was good or anything, or not just.
It almost pulls you out of the gameplay state of flow more than anything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And beyond that opening cutscene where you get those nice like cheek shots into jumpsuit, I was largely uninterested. They piqued my interest in the first minute, so. I mean,
yeah, that's
what do you do?
How you want to know.
It's a robot apocalypse. Yeah.
Set up your character like, and she's in her underwear right away.
Yeah, we're just gonna go to the lowest common denominator. Hot chick exploitation. Yeah. It felt like the cutscenes made me feel like they were trying for a depth of like Nier Automata, but like just stuck with one stage of Nier Automata. They're like, hey, it worked there. We only played that one level.
Without any of the nuance of Nier Automata at all. It's just 100%. Like, we have weird robots. That's it.
They were dead, but guess not. I don't know. Yeah. Gameplay wise, super tight. What was weird to me was like you have to select the tutorial, like it doesn't push you into it. So like I just started playing the game and was like, what in the fuck? And got destroyed in like 2 seconds. And then I found the tutorial, played through it, and I was still like, what in the fuck? And then I kept playing it, and eventually it clicked, which I'll give it compliments, as all good bullet hell shooters do. Eventually you find your rhythm and you love it. I would suggest to anyone playing this game to just do yourself a favor and start on easy. Unless you hate yourself, you can try on medium, but you're probably not going to learn the ins and outs of this game if you put yourself to that difficulty right away.
And don't worry about getting hit, because I think it's built into this game. You're going to get hit. You're going to take
learning the shield mechanic is important, and that you are going to be a bullet sponge in a weird way that bullet hell shooters never encourage you to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this has one of my major gripes with shooters that try to enter the modern era, and that is like, I understand that shooters evolved like in this space setting and everything be like due to visual and GPU restrictions and color palette restrictions, but there was something brilliant in the simplicity of a black screen representing space. So when you use modern technology to just throw layers upon layers of endless scrolling and depth, and like you muddy the playfield in a way that it's impossible as a player to possibly comprehend or decipher like where you're at in a bullet hell shooter, which is so crucial.
Some of them are different colors. Like if
Yeah,
all the enemies shot one color, maybe it'd be one thing, but yeah.
yeah, and to your point, like that shield mechanic makes up largely for that in this game, but it still ends up a lot of the times like in the heat of the moment, like you just hyper focused on where you're at and you're missing 90% of what's going on, or there's so much going on that none of it makes sense at all, which is the worst feeling. The game doesn't do that often, but it does it every level. Like it's never like constant, but like there's always those moments where you're like, I have no idea. Like how am I still alive, or like what's happening in this?
There's so many parts in this where I just feel like you are meant to just eat it, and you just grab the little pickups just to stay alive. Like it's just nonsense. There's no like skill or anything to it. It's just like you're just here to take shots, and you're going to pick up these things just to stay alive enough,
Mm-hmm. And it highly leverages one of my other least favorite shmup mechanics, and that is the high shot and the low shot, or the aerial enemies and the ground-based enemies. And this game does this to such a inconsistent degree. Like in every aspect, it is a constant shit show of like you have to choose between imminent death or trying to 100% a ground-based enemy, and none of it's fun. Like you basically just kind of have to accept the fact that like I will ignore everything that's on the ground for most of this game and just deal with the ammo they're throwing at me, because it's not worth trying to split my brain.
Yeah,
like
that's kind of what I was. I was basically like, until they're forcing me to use the ground shot. That was the only time I was really using the ground shot, because so much of that stuff was like just shooting a bunch of peons anyway for nothing, other than score, I suppose. But
you'll get the rare occasion where there's like one massive enemy, but it's like it's still in your benefit to just take his fallout and keep yourself in the game than it is to try to eliminate him and get whatever bonus points you might have,
Yep. Yeah.
And that's where they failed. Yeah, that mechanic, I understand what they were going for, but they failed in balancing that in this game to a large degree. And then there's like that whole third stage too, where it's like the typical hyper fast, like shit's coming in, like I don't know, like I started playing on easy, and you get 4 ships I think in easy, and in the first 2 minutes of that level I had gone through 3 of my ships, because there's just like split second indications as to like this wall's coming up to you, almost like Battletoads like hover bike level type shit, where it's like, yeah, I could get there through memorization, but what the hell? Like this is the third stage. What are you doing to me?
Yeah, that's the one that I died on by far the most, because you would die 2 or 3 times in the front, and then you get to the boss at the end and then die, and it's like, well, start over, you get nothing. And that part was just like really frustrating.
Even Ikaruga on lower level difficulties would have respawn checkpoints. This game does not at all.
No. You lose your ship, all your ships, you're done for the level. You get no, there is progression to some extent. Like there is upgrades and stuff to your ship, which they unlock as you go, which is just dumb to me. Like if it's just let me grind it out in the first level and get everything I want, if I want to do it that way.
Well, at least there's a currency system though, so like it does drive some replayability. Like yes, you're unlocking them through stages, but like you still need to purchase. So
yeah,
it
and I did
encourages you to
run
go
out
back
toward
through
the
somewhat.
end to get
Did
like
you?
some of the upgrades that I wanted, and I didn't
Yeah.
end up buying them. But yeah, I just wish that they would have, allowed you to pick what you wanted right away, because you see them and you're like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
I want a drone ship.
Yeah.
Of course I want a drone ship, but yeah, they don't let you have it till later.
Yeah, I think that was like a nice point. Like as you mentioned, like at least there is an upgrade system. There's badges and achievements. There's split screen co-op or like 2-player co-op, which is cool. A lot of like kind of modern enhancements and like additions to kind of drive some replayability and like get some more out of it, which you don't like. So I just kept in my mind, I know it's an older game by now, but I just kept comparing this to like Cinemore, where it's like, yeah, that was like a $20 to $30 price point game too, but the overall package was so much less than what you get with the base of this game, in my opinion. Like, it's a step up from that stuff. There's a little more effort put into it. It's still like a $30 game, which if this was 50, I would say this is only for like the most diehard of people. But I think at the $30 price point, like it's exactly what you'd expect like a bullet hell shooter to be. Like it's very demanding and difficult and off-putting the first couple times you play it, but what it has is like that thing where you just jump in, and if you're willing to give it a little bit of patience and maybe adjust the difficulty to start getting your entry point, like you just start finding your groove. And then instead of wanting to rage quit like you do the first half an hour, you're just like clamoring to get to the next stage. And I think that's a testament to a good shooter. I can't say I've played a lot of modern shooters that make me feel like that.
Yep.
Like those R-Type final games, like not at all. Like never did that for me.
Yeah. And this game's overall really gorgeous. I mean, there is so much going on in this game.
Too much. I'd love to just spectate it, because like it sucks as a player because you're just like
following the bullets. Yeah. Yeah. You're just looking at bullets. You're not even looking around. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's demanding, I'm sure, because there was a few times that my computer was like, for a shooter, you're just like, oh, aren't we past this yet? But they're still pumping so much graphics and bullets out there that it's there's a lot of math involved in that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, and like we were talking before the show, even mine crashed 2 or 3 times until my computer got into a good rhythm with it. And then like even then I could hear the fans full bore just chugging on it. So
yeah. So toward the latter, I think the first 3 or 4 levels are really good. And then at the end, the last couple are terrible.
Okay.
You will have sections where you are shooting the same like green planes for like 2 minutes straight. There's nothing else. There is no, and it just sucks because you're building up to this, especially the last level. You're building up to this, big fight at the end.
Yeah.
And you're stuck doing this. Like all you had to do was just mix up give me some other enemies. I don't care what they are. Even if they're easy, if they're hard, whatever, just give me something else. Literally like 2 minutes fighting the same exact things. It's like, is this thing stuck? Is it glitched? Like, is it just like on a loop on something?
Well, and I almost feel like you run into some of that tedium in the early levels too, because like for whatever reason, this game insists on every level clocking in between 10 and 15 minutes, which I don't know. That's kind of a lot to ask when you're getting 8 minutes in before you see the boss on these things.
Yeah.
And not to downplay like how good the boss fights are, because they're all really well thought out and fun and like, a little bit of a dance, nothing super intricate or super stressful, but appropriate. But yeah, there's huge stretches of this game, which like you've mentioned, like I feel like they almost throw them in there just because they've thrown this energy replenish mechanic. So you basically like have these energy wells that you're picking up to power up your ship, which control like how your shot type works, your missile reload, but then also lets you like gear your ship towards putting more energy into shield or firepower, right? And I feel like they go through these stretches in this game in the level design where they're just like, well, we're giving you nothing. So now we have to go through 10 minutes of like, here's the same 50 enemies just so you can get enough collectibles
to get everything back up. Yep.
And it's bad game design. So like it's interesting for me to hear you say that because I got to level 5. I think there's 7 stages, at least on the initial outline. I don't know if there's more past that. And I was feeling that getting up to stage 5. So if you're saying that just exacerbates from there on out, like that's kind of bad.
It got really bad. There was not much creativity in the last few levels, which is kind of a bummer. And yeah, let's talk about the shot types, because you can change your slots for the shot types, but it's
kind of a mess.
1 through 6, like you're just spreading out the shot. It's
right
over 6 different angles. It's like, well, it's
options not is what it is, that right?
Critical.
Like it would right, and it would have been an option set up in a 90s shooter, but like here they make it like stupidly complicated, and it's not necessary.
Yep. I don't know when this unlocked, but I noticed at the end you can make your own.
Okay, yeah, I saw that because I was seeing like a save template thing, but yeah, I hadn't unlocked it either. So
yeah, so like you can create your own shot, and basically like, I want this bullet to go this exact angle, which is dumb. Like you already have 6 of them of a variety. I don't think any of them were shooting backwards or anything like that, or sideways.
I feel like that allows you to like in replayability mode though to like come up with a like God mode configuration like you could in like a blazing laser or something where it's like, well, I have all these upgrades and this pattern and shot type, and now I will just nuke everything on like, maybe that's the reward, but yeah, it's a level of depth you didn't need in a shooter that is mostly like point at the things, they explode,
I did like my brain went in and out on this function, whether or not I remembered it, but you can use the other stick and angle.
Yes.
Which is cool in a shooter to have a little bit of a dual stick setup. I mean,
maybe more than 15 degrees would have been good.
Yeah, exactly. It helps tremendously on bosses, because a lot of the bosses, you can't do a straight shot on, so you might as well. And that part really changed also, like the importance of all the different shot types, because you just want one that shoots all the bullets forward, because I can aim for the most part.
That mechanic also though kind of breaks on the ground combat, because instead of an angle, it's literally like a tertiary targeting reticle. So in the heat of the moment, it's very easy to overextend that. And then maybe another point that's worth noting is like in a lot of shooters that have, or in a lot of retro shooters that have a high shot and a low shot, you would always just hold both of those, right? Well, this game, holding both of those only shoots the one you've pulled down the most recently. So there is no, I'm hitting both fronts. Like you need to choose, which is a bummer, because like it's kind of a staple that like if you hold both the things, they always just auto shoot. Yeah. So why they chose to eliminate that? Yeah. Even if you weren't paying attention to the ground shot, like there's enough, I think, just splash damage you could have done that would have made sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. Disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the story is nonsensical. It's basically like, we got to this place. We used machines because we thought they were dead. They didn't like it. They woke up and attacked us. So we killed them. Hooray. Manifest destiny, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, it is. And they're very like pretty well produced cutscenes for a game that like, not that the shooter is well produced, it looks good, but like it's almost like a jarring difference of like art style and like a level of detail to a shooter that, I don't know, maybe a good old 90s like text scroll for 2 seconds would have just fixed.
Yeah.
It was fine. I appreciated that they tried. It didn't add anything to the game for me.
No.
The butt cheeks aside, it is what it is. It looked like Tracer from Overwatch getting in an X-Wing is pretty much.
That sounds like the pitch to this game, right? Actually, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts? Like, what would you give it on our scale of Byron Burn?
This one's a tough one because everything to me is screaming Rent because it is pretty mediocre. There's a lot of kind of things I think they could have done better.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really like playing it. I always wanted to keep going back in it. It looked gorgeous. And maybe it's just because there's not any shooters really that, I mean, probably are. I'm just not playing them that are modern like this and look this good and play pretty well. I still prefer like the less bullet hell, like
yes,
the just kind of cruising. Shoot all the things in the one group, get a power up type thing. I like that style more than this, but because this kind of devolves into nonsense every once in a while. But personally, I think it's going to be a buy for me, just because I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I could lean that way as a personal pick too. I think I'm going to put it in the Rent because I think that's where most of the audience will fall. That said, though, everything you said, I concur with. I didn't beat the game, but I put 2 hours into it. At least that's what it recorded from the crashes. I'm sure it was a little more. But I went from like, I'm very skeptical on this thing, and then you find your groove and it clicks, and then you find yourself finishing bosses and like in the zone. Like it has all the things of like a good shooter, which I didn't expect out of a game I heard nothing about that just came out this year. But I think for most people, like it will just be a casual play. But I'm not going to fault anyone for putting it on the buy position either. I think if that's your thing, and but I think it's a solid rental for sure. Like I always feel like it's hard to justify a buy for any shooter, no matter how much I love it, just because of what they are inherently. But
this is a 3-hour game if you're not into the replayability of it. It's
right. It's wild though that just like kind of came out of nowhere, was right on Epic, which is where we got it, and it was just. I feel like no one's talked about it. I didn't know anything about it until I was like, oh, this must have come out a couple of years ago. And I was like, wait, this came out in August of this year. I'm like, really? Okay. So if I could find a physical version, I would buy it. I will say that if there's a physical copy, I would pick this up.
I wonder if there's an arcade for this. I mean, Konami, I don't know if they would be in on that or not.
Yeah.
That might be interesting.
Might be. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into it and see if I can't buy a definitive version or something. I saw there was a definitive version on Steam. It looks like it's just a soundtrack, which I can't recommend the soundtrack. I think at stage 3, I realized I was listening to something between like a cross up of like a film score between maybe the original Star Wars trilogy and a Lord of the Rings film. And I was like, I'm very confused by what's happening right now.
It's John Williams something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good time. I am going to finish this game, and this will probably be when I revisit a lot like Darius Burst, like when I just want to blow some shit up and get in the zone. Like this is it.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, a level, like you said, I think I do like the 10-minute thing because it is, if you're just going to go in and play 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's good. I wish there was more variety and everything. I mean, I think that first level is probably one of the best ones because there's 2 optional bosses. So it kind of gives you an extra like, I really want to try and go for this. And then they
learning how those change the flow learning how those change the flow is so good. But then, they don't do that much after that. So
yeah,
a lot of grays, I will say. We didn't touch on that, but it's very like PS3 360 era of like gray is your new friend. So could use some color.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's another Byron burn down, huh?
It is. And we had all our guns blazing until, well, you can track us down on X, Weekend Rental PC. We're also on the email at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. Buy this game. Send us a clip of you not getting hit, and we'll send you something.
No clips coming. No.
Yep.
You can do a no hit run.
Flawless.
You're a god. Yeah.
Yep.
That'd be amazing.
I'm sure somebody's done it. There's got to be somebody out there that those people are masochists, but yeah. Sometimes we stream. I don't know how this would have.
Well, hey, you got to talk to the missus, because I don't think date night trumps stream night, Andy.
Yeah,
we exactly. had a date. We were gonna stream, and I don't know.
Yeah.
How dare she expect Andy time? My Andy time.
In retrospect of how this game plays, I cannot imagine. This you can't stream a game like this. There's
no. How would I have commentated this?
Well, right. The Twitch encoder would have been just a garbled mess because it can't even like render what's happening on that screen, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked out well. I mean, it would have been hilarious, but yeah, it wouldn't have been much for content. That's for sure.
Yep. I never thought about that, streaming a bullet hell like this. I can't imagine you could. Like there's probably not enough internet in the world to make something like that look streamable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this show. So until next time, be kind, rewind.
Bananas.
Nanos.